Hey Alan, I need to ask you something. I want to be a teacher. I was wondering, how does middle-level philosophy affect curriculum?
Thank you for asking, Danny DeVito. To answer that question, I need to address exactly what the philosophy of middle-level education is. From my understanding, the philosophy is how teachers put in the effort to working with and for students. As you can probably imagine, the curriculum is a major part of that. As they go through middle school, students have a lot of information to process and remember. As a person with ADHD, I can tell that remembering content from multiple classes took getting used to. What helped me was figuring out a way the information overlapped to things I recognized. As an education major and a teacher, I want to help students develop their learning styles by applying lessons to their day-to-day lives.
Interesting. How do you use real-world information to draft your lessons?
Through what's known as an integrated curriculum, teachers connect lessons in the classroom to real-world examples. Research has shown that an integrative curriculum has been widely beneficial to teachers and students. To quote the article, curriculum integration learning occurs when a person makes connections. Teachers foster this kind of learning when they engage in responsive teaching that starts with the students themselves and offers multiple flexibilities. Something worth bringing up is an example of integration from field placement. My cooperating teacher, who I'll call Mr. Cooperating Teacher out of respect for his privacy, was having a classroom discussion about term limits. The lesson was split into different parts. For one, he talked briefly about what term limits are, as well as their significance. He included details about how many terms a president can serve and for how long per term. As a follow-up, he had them read an article about former President Donald Trump and how he talked about extending his term limits if he's re-elected, since he feels the election was stolen from him. The reason the article was relevant was because Mr. Cooperating Teacher was able to relate an older concept to more modern history that the students would be more familiar with.
You mentioned responsive teaching starts with students themselves. Care to elaborate?
As mentioned previously, the middle-level philosophy is working with students to meet their respective needs. A strong integrative curriculum should keep them as involved as possible. To construct a worthy curriculum for worldly adolescents, educators need to help them be aware of themselves and the world around them. In the school system, middle and high school especially, there's more to learn about outside the big four subjects. In other words, school helps students learn how to think. Once students have deeply considered an, they need to talk about it. Young adolescents are eager to talk to their peers, and teachers should facilitate discussion of a range of local and global issues, listen to the opinions of their peers, and, together, discuss solutions. That's a quote from the article A Worthy Curriculum for Worldly Adolescents. It's important that education is formatted in a way that relates to what students might be experiencing in the real world. Doing so keeps them engaged in the lesson, and talk openly about their own experiences with the material. In my personal opinion, I think integrating real-world topics in lessons could help students put their lessons into a real-world perspective.
Do you think students should be working together?
Oh yeah, Jimmy Mac.
I'm Danny DeVito.
I know, that's my catchphrase. Anyway, according to the article, removing imaginary boundaries around content working with peers promotes the development of the class learning as a community as well as students' leadership and communication. An essential part of teaching a classroom, especially with an integrated curriculum, is to allow for students to work together. Not only does it build social skills, it gets students thinking about what's being asked of them and how to carry out their tasks in the most efficient way possible. Something else I want to bring up, from student choice, student voice, is what ties the middle-level philosophy and curriculum together. Of course, what I'm referring to is the student-teacher relationship. The podcast talks about how people, teachers and students included, display less productivity if they feel unrecognized or unappreciated. The desire for belonging is human nature. We're all motivated by connection. That inherent need is at the core of productivity. The point I'm making is that teachers need to work with our students in order to ensure their best effort. I mentioned this in a previous journal entry, and I can't stress it enough, that having someone who shows they care about you and your progress can make a huge difference on putting in effort and self-accountability. Any other questions?
Yeah, why do you put random periods and commas in the middle of sentences?
So that the characters don't talk too fast and people watching these video journal entries can understand the characters coherently without it being too difficult. Supercalifragilisticexpialidocious.